Hello and welcome back to The Editorial, the podcast where we discuss everything we got wrong, although this time we got very little wrong, because we are very clever boys.
Yeah. That's going to be the new title.
We're very clever boys.
We're very clever boys, all lowercase.
Zach, how are you doing?
Very, very well. I feel a bit guilty because we haven't done this for way more than we should have.
That is true.
Yeah, that is true.
Luckily there were no consequences this time.
Yeah, so we're supposed to do it, every 2 weeks?
Yes.
The last one, it's now currently the 6th of December.
Yeah.
The last one was the 26th of October.
Not great.
Not great.
Slightly more than 2 weeks.
Clever but naughty boys.
Clever but naughty. Oh, that's a good title.
No, that's a bit...
No?
No.
Okay, keep going.
A bit much.
A bit much.
Anyway, yeah. Luckily, since we did that last one, there haven't been that many errors. I think our various, error catching mechanisms. I should say, I think the main reason we haven't done one for a while is because you were away for quite a lot of that.
Yeah.
And I have been doing a lot of baby stuff in the interim.
Very important. I've been to the UN twice.
Me,
You've been doing a baby.
Struggle with a 9-month sleep regression. So yeah,
that's good too.
Anyway, I think we're going to go through every video with a below 96% like-dislike ratio because that's what we always do. But I actually think there are probably really only 2 or 3, maybe 4 videos that we need to talk about in depth. I'm going to start with UK, then do EU, and then do global, just in order of which ones have the most. So the UK, we only have 3 videos that were below 96%, and one of them is actually just on 96%. So that first one is Starmer, should he pick the US or the EU, that video?
Yes.
That came in at 96%. There was nothing wrong with the video per se, it was just everyone saying that we should pick the EU, and why are we even considering picking the US, which is very on brand from the audience. Thank you very much, guys.
That's not a dislikable offence. Come on.
I agree, but there you go. People saying the special relationship isn't real, which,
I mean, fair
enough, yeah. Farmers' protests, 92.5.
That makes sense.
Again, I don't want to be too critical of the audience here. Whoever watched that video, but there was nothing substantial in the criticism of that video. It was just people basically implying that we were not sufficiently pro-farmer, which is, it's one of those very controversial topics that a certain contingent of the internet, as it were, is sort of, it's very, they care about it a lot. Then the last one is what Trump means for the UK, and that is 95.8%. And that seems to be because I think the video, I didn't write this video, I'm still taking responsibility, but I didn't write it, but the video was too optimistic, I think, about the Trump-Starmer relationship.
Sure.
And I actually think this is a fair comment. I apologise. I'm going to apologise for this one. I think that was a sort of a mistake. I think basically put too much stock into some reports that originated from the Labour Party about there were closed doors meetings with Republican and Labour Party officials that apparently went very, very well. Yeah. And I think it's pretty clear that they didn't go as well as people implied. Sure. Starmer clearly doesn't get on well. Yeah. I think the current Trump administration, Elon Musk and co included, clearly don't think very highly of Starmer.
Yes, that seems to be true.
Yeah. Apparently he's a communist.
And it's a police state too now, right?
Comes as news to anyone living in the UK.
Yeah.
So that's the 3 UK ones. On EU, we have 5 that fell below this. Trump Ukraine peace plan, but that got 94.3. That is, I think, just because it reached such a wide audience, and as we mentioned previously on this podcast, those videos just that reach a wider audience, they just do have a low like-dislike ratio. Could Trump's peace plan, could Trump's return force the EU to accept Turkey into the bloc? 94.3. I actually agree with this. People say it's too clickbaity. I would like to apologise for that. I think it was too clickbaity. I wrote it, but in retrospect, I do agree it was too clickbaity. I thought it was very interesting that Erdogan was so explicitly and so immediately trying to leverage sort of Turkey's security capabilities to deepen the relationship with the EU post-Trump. And I also thought it was interesting to talk about the history of that and the fact that successive British prime ministers, essentially, especially Tony Blair, tried to do the same thing, tried to leverage the UK's security capabilities to get more influence inside the EU and to no avail. And it's quite nice because it opens up to a wider conversation about the EU's sort of whether or not it can be load-bearing in security terms and the tensions that creates with NATO. But I think that the thumb was too clickbaity because the answer is just so obviously no. I mean, the idea of Turkey joining the EU, I think, is for the birds at this point. And maybe sometime in the distant future, as it were, but it would be the largest member state by population. The EU is already pretty anxious about admitting any new members. Yeah, and then admitting
Turkey.
Yeah, Turkey. Yeah, exactly. And obviously, geographically, that's very, very difficult as well. All of a sudden, the EU's borders would be Syria.
That is spicy.
Yeah, exactly. You can imagine that most of the European electorate would not accept that. European wages. Why European wages so low? 95.4. Again, I'm actually going to apologise for this. I agree. People said there was not enough there about why European wages are so low. I think I'm going to half agree. I am going to apologise. I think that first half of the video was like why wages in the developed world are so low. And you can see how that's not quite
it's not exactly
advertised.
And
then the second half is, well, let's just say like the third quarter is about the European wages suffering very acutely during the most recent inflationary spike. I think that sort of is answering the question. It wasn't framed as like a why, it was more like this is what's happened. And then the final bit, fourth quarter, was a why, and in a sense that was quite quick. We just said some stuff about union membership and anxieties amongst European central bankers about wage price spirals, and that was quite quick. And maybe this should have been rejigged to give that more time.
More prominence.
I sort of accept that in retrospect. I think I would have done that. Little apology, acknowledgise there. Why the Conservative left is on the rise in Europe, 95.9%. I think two specific things. I think it's a not controversial topic, but it's one of those topics where like it invites discussion. Because do you agree with that framing? Do you agree with the left-right framing? And you might not. You might push back against that. And that's probably slightly reflected in like distant ratio. There were some more specific irritations. People were saying that they disagreed with my characterisation of Boris Johnson on the sort of Conservative left and Marine Le Pen. I think the claims made in that video are broadly true. It's still true that Le Pen is. She's not left-wing on economic issues, but she did, as the video claims, pivot to the left on cost of living sort of issues during the presidential campaign. And you see that actually with the current budget discussion. So she's, at the moment, we're recording this on Wednesday, so the no confidence vote or censure vote in the French government is literally happening tonight. And that has been triggered by Le Pen. And one of the things is that she thought the budget cuts were too harsh. So, she said that they needed to bring down tax on electricity, for instance. And that's, that is to the left of where you might have expected a previous Le Pen party to be. And Boris Johnson, I think, I actually just do stand by this. I think that Boris Johnson's stated politics, I don't know about you, but they were way more left-wing than Cameron, for instance. You know what I mean? That whole levelling up thing, people say it's just a slogan. I mean, of course it was sort of just a slogan, but like, I think
he was also doing stuff.
Exactly. It was just the political focus there was just so different from like the Cameron Osborne. That's all about the City of London and just sort of like growth in pure terms. Boris Johnson is to the left of that. I think that's just true. German Greens is the final one. It's probably the only one. German Greens. German Greens. What the German Green Party is doing has collapsed. Support from them has collapsed. This is like 94%, 94.5%. I think there's two things here. I think maybe three things. There was, firstly, people...
Always three things.
I just sort of constantly sort of
is that another
things.
thing?
They're basically people pushing back against the idea. We said that Germany abruptly shut down its nuclear power plants. I agree, it's not a good description of what happened. It wasn't abrupt. The process began in 2011 after Fukushima. So acknowledgise that. Apologies. People are also saying the poll collapse wasn't as drastic as we made out because they got 14% last time and they're currently polling on sort of 11, 12%, which doesn't sound very dramatic. Yes, but they obviously peaked at like 25% and they've done that a couple of times in the past few years. And I think that is sufficiently dramatic to merit a video. I'd also say that in the most recent poll that I've seen, there was a poll that put them on 7%. And that is pretty dramatic. So I think that that's probably true. I think you probably get away with I think you can justify basically their sport has collapsed given that it peaked in polls at 20-something, 25% and is now down to sort of near 10%. But the last thing is I just think that it turns out that green videos generally are controversial. We've got one that came out this morning about Europe souring on net zero. And that has a slightly lower than average like-dislike ratio. We'll see where it ends up. It's about 96% at the moment. And I just think green videos are controversial. I think they invite controversy from both sides. I think some people obviously on the sort of more pro-green end of the spectrum, are annoyed that we're apparently having a go at the Greens or sort of undermining net zero politics or whatever. And I think obviously there are people on the sort of the right, as it were, the sort of anti-net zero types who think we're not being sufficiently anti-net zero.
Of course.
Okie dokie. That takes us to global. Global. There are quite a lot.
I thought we'd been good boys.
We have, but here's
Clever
the thing:
boys.
is that we've been such clever boys. Here's the thing: it's that almost all of them are US videos, and it's just that those US videos. I know, they just all naturally fall in slightly lower. So Trump's slight favourite to win, 93.3. I mean, we turned out to be right about that one. Would Trump crash the economy? 92.9. As we say in that video, we're just covering his stated policies.
Yeah.
It's true that the economy did, I don't know, maybe say it did well enough, as it were, in his first term, but his stated policies would have some pretty dramatic effects. Trump wins what next? 94.5. Maybe we don't spend enough time on the what next, but it's a sort of immediate results video. I don't think we have much to apologise for there. Why Trump won? 95.3. Elon Musk plans balance the budget, 95.9. Trump wants to devalue the dollar, 96. Syria, and that's basically it.
Sure.
All of those basically fall between 93 and 96. I've looked through them. I can't see specific issues. I think it's just that it's controversial and Trump just generates that.
Yeah, makes sense.
That ratio. However, there are two Trump videos, which are really, really low. So we haven't been very clever boys.
Oh no.
Well, we say this. So the first one is why Trump might not be as pro-Israel as you think.
Yeah.
88.5.
Oh, that's a stinker.
They got me. That, I don't know, this is going to be pretty off-brand for me, but I'm just going to stick by that. The content of the video is just that I think he might not be as furious pro-Israel as people think because he will want a deal. And I stand by that, and I think his politics in the first term demonstrates that. We'll find out. Again, it's not saying, by the way, that he won't be pro-Israel. He obviously will be in some sense pro-Israel.
But less than you think.
Less than you think. And there is a sense in both, I think, America and Israel that he's going to be so pro-Israel that they're going to annex the West Bank and do even worse things to Gaza. And I don't know if that's necessarily true. I think he will be pushing for a deal, and it's just just satisfying Israel's maximalist aims in Gaza and the West Bank is not really a deal, and it's not sustainable. And Trump will probably know that, or at least his advisors will. So I think we have to wait and see. I think that the reasoning given in the video that he's going to be trying to push for a deal there, and that will probably not be consistent with like Israel's most maximalist aims. I think that's just true. Maybe I'll be proved wrong. We'll see. Then we have Trump's controversial immigration policy explained, 90.3. There are two things here. One is just the fact that we use the word controversial, and people on the right saying no, it's not controversial.
Okay.
But it is controversial. And that's not saying anything normative. I'm not saying anything about what I think of it. It's just trivially true that in the US, this is a controversial idea. It divides opinion.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to spend any more time pushing back against that. I mean, it's just people say like, oh no, we're just we're doing what we should do. We're deporting illegal immigrants.
That is controversial.
If you deport 20 million people, that's controversial. And again, just to be clear, you don't even have to be on either side of that debate. You just have to admit that some of the American population thinks one thing and the others think the other thing.
Yeah.
And that hence controversial. There was another specific thing that we get quite a few times, which is that we conflated legal with illegal immigration. This happened when we were presenting polling. We said that there had been a sort of anti-migrant shift in US public opinion, and then we say, here's some polling showing that people wanting the total number of immigrants covering both legal and illegal to go down, and then here's some more polling showing that they think illegal immigration is a security threat, and that number of people saying that has gone up. I sort of half take this point. I think it is important, and sometimes we don't do this well enough to make that distinction. Two caveats though. The first is that this is in the context of a talk about the swing in public opinion against immigration. And while it is of course important to differentiate between illegal and legal, or legal and undocumented, the public doesn't. And so when we're talking about a swing in public opinion, and we're showing that both those poles, those poles move in tandem. And so maybe we should make more of it when we're sort of discussing it, but we're talking about it in the context of swinging public opinion. The public doesn't differentiate. So actually presenting those two poles side by side, I don't think is wrong, especially because we say it's a swing in attitudes against migration generally. We don't say a swing in attitudes towards specifically legal or illegal immigration. And so if we just say migration and present graphs showing public opinion swing against both legal and illegal immigration, I don't think that's necessarily wrong per se. The other thing to say is, and we've talked about this before, is that I think people think this distinction between legal and illegal immigration is clearer than it actually is. I mean, just to give it a good example, in the American context, when people talk about illegal immigration, they normally cite essentially Pew figures that come from 2022, which say there are 13 million illegal immigrants in the US. That's the language that Pew use. But that includes people waiting to have their asylum claims processed. If those asylum claims are successful, then they're not really illegal. And it also includes people who are protected under certain temporary protection schemes, like deferred action for child arrival scheme, which is the Obama-era Dreamer scheme, basically for people who arrived as illegal immigrants or undocumented immigrants as kids. And there are sort of Biden-era temporary protected status schemes for migrants from certain countries, like I think Haiti as well. And again, the legality of those sorts of migrants, is just sort of slightly ambiguous, right? It's a temporary scheme, but you are sort of, I don't know if legal is the right word, but as in like you're covered by that scheme.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's what I would say about that one. I think I take the general point that it's always important to distinguish between those two types of immigration, but two caveats. One, in that particular context, we're talking about swinging public opinion towards both types of immigration, so I don't think it's necessarily wrong. And I think that distinction is a bit blurrier than most people think. Think that's fair?
Yeah, I think that seems fair.
Nice. Then the last one, very, very quickly, Syria's civil war, 95.7.
Yes.
That's just because it's, again, very big viewership.
Kind of makes sense.
Yep. Nothing wrong in there, I don't think. Some people pushing back against it, just talking about the sort of the rebels as rebels, the anti-government rebels as rebels. Yeah, I mean, we do talk about it in the video. We do also mention that they are Islamists. Those two things are not mutually exclusive. I think that's basically the answer there. It's not wrong. They are rebels. They're also Islamists. They're rebels insofar as they're pushing back against the government. And they're Islamists because that's what their ideology is. Yeah, so there we go. And then finally, tiny error on Japan's, what are you going to say?
No, I thought we were done.
Tiny
I'm just
error.
gasping.
Japan's $250 billion plan to save its economy. On animation on screen, it says 2021, when it should say 2024 Japanese general election. I know.
It's killer.
Teaser one. But that is everything.
That's everything. Great.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think in the comments. Are we good boys, naughty boys?
Yeah, I think we're
clever boys.
Pretty good boys. No, don't.
Which one are we in the comments? Let us know, and join us again in 2 weeks' time when we'll review your very democratic vote in the comments, and we will also discuss everything we inevitably get wrong between now and then, unless Christmas comes first. But I don't think, no, it won't.
Will it?
No, I don't think so.
20th?
Yeah, it'd be like the Christmas party day or something.
Yeah, true. It should be day after if we did that. Yeah.
That sounds like it.
Yeah. That's going to be a crazy party.
We'll see.
All right.
Okay, we will see you in a couple weeks' time. Thank you for joining us.